Good evening, everybody. This is the third YouTube live event from Ilby Grammar School for the new Blue Tie cohort. I'm Andy Calvert, assistant head teacher at the grammar school. Slightly moved position this evening to a different part of my house to do this presentation. Just a quick reminder of the rules. It's largely unscripted, this and this session really I wanted just to give the opportunity for you to ask any of the questions. I've got a few sort of frequently asked questions that often come up here, and I'll just work my way through those for the next sort of 20 minutes, half an hour. The chat bar is open. Mrs. Varley's there as well. If there's any questions about individual students, then make sure you email them through to transition@ilkleygs.co.uk. I have had a look at the transition mailbox, and there was a few questions about Welcome Day. The letter and the organisation that is being done like pretty much now and should be with you pretty soon. But in a nutshell, the day is on the 14th of July. We start around 8:20 to 9-ish. We really want to give the students the opportunity to actually try and travel to school, and in the letter I do say that to practice them getting themselves to school, because obviously the next time they do it will be for real in September. To facilitate that, we have asked the bus company if it's okay if the year sixes get onto the school buses, particularly useful for those students that will be using the school bus in the future. Obviously the railways aren't working too well today, but hopefully by then they'll be working fine as well, and there's a lot of students that can walk in depending on where they live in the area. So please kind of think of that. You are welcome to drop them off yourself as well, but if you don't know Cowpasture Road at all, it can be quite a congested area, so please do that safely and legally when you do drop off, and you're not allowed to come onto site to drop off unless you have an accessible reason to do that, such a blue badge, or you're dropping off one of the EHCP students that's agreed with the school. With regards to the buses, there'll be no cost on the buses. I spoke to the bus company today. There is no cost for that bus journey to and from school on the 14th of July. And just to make sure that everything is safe, we will put a member of our staff on the bus right from the start of the route to get to school, and then the same thing on the way home as well. What the students need to bring on Welcome Day is basically they're dressed in their primary school uniform. I have told them that, and just to bring a packed lunch with them and the pencil case, and that's all they need. The day itself is a day of team building. What we do is we meet in B Hall, and then on that day we actually read out the students that are in individual tutor groups, and they go off and spend their day with their tutor, doing team building exercises, familiarisation of the site, and so on. It's meant to be a fun day. In order just to confirm that, I will write to all parents that evening and send a school comms to you, so you're aware of which tutor group band and what colour band they're in as well, just for uniform purposes, so just so you're aware as well. And just going back to my points I've made so many times about those tutor groups, we do work really hard to formulate those tutor groups, and we've been working at pace with the primary schools to make sure that we keep positive relationships together where we can. But the whole point of moving up to secondary school is that we do allow those groups to reform and form 11 new tutor groups, and you know that's our job, and we're pretty good at it. If there are any concerns about things, just make sure you ring in or email in, and we'll have a look at them. But ultimately what I'd prefer to do is make sure that we give things a go in September, so we can try and make sure that these agrees, because I suppose to some extent you have to trust me really, but very, very quickly the young people do familiarise themselves and start building those new friendships in high school, and that's exactly what we want them to do. Just an addition to that, obviously, is the welcome evening on the same day for parents. The head and the two deputies will give you a presentation, probably similar to the things I've already talked about really, but it's just coming from them and just in a little bit more of a formal way. Within the letter that I will send has the times and dates, but effectively it's 6 till 8 o'clock. Just for numbers reasons, we do have to split the primary schools up a little bit, so there'll be a 6 to 7 group and a 7 till 8 group just for really trying to fit you all into B Hall, really. And obviously with COVID restrictions still, we do need to just sort of try and socially distance you all where we can. But there's also an opportunity on that evening to meet if they're available, your child's tutor. They will be in classrooms, and it's just really just to go in and say hello to them, put a name to a face as such for everybody's purposes, see how they are, meet them, introduce yourself, and just have a quick initial kind of chat about the school and so on. Nothing formal as such, a very informal atmosphere. There are members of the school leadership team there as well, and the SEN team and the inclusive learning team. Also, our 2 uniform suppliers will be there as well on that evening, and they can help guide you and help measure up for anyone that needs to use the uniform. We have 2 suppliers from school. There's Dobson and Robinson and Wharfdale uniforms. Both have shops in Ilkley. And both, if you just tell them that you're in going into the blue tie cohort, that are very helpful people to try and make sure that you get everything you need. We are kind of conscious of the cost of living crisis at the minute, and uniform is something that is expensive. I think all parents recognise that it's a cost that comes in, and we do try and do everything we can to make sure that the branded items are as available as possible. And also where we can, we allow unbranded items, trousers and skirts, shirts and blouses and so on. So please do look around for them. Obviously the blazer is the one piece of equipment that is expensive. To facilitate this, and not just for Year 6 students, the PTA are running a pre-loved uniform sale the night before, actually on the 13th of July, between 6 and 7:30 in the sports hall, where there's an awful, as there is in every school, an awful lot of pre-loved uniform. We're not entirely sure. If it's Year 11 uniform, it probably wouldn't fit a Year 6. But please, should you want to do that, you'd be very welcome to come down to the sports hall between 6 and 7:30 on the 13th of July, so the night before, just to pick up those 2 or 3 items that just might alleviate the cost a little bit. And actually also on a sustainability level, we do think it's important that we do recycle uniform where we can for climate purposes, if nothing else as well. So please do just pop that into your diary for now, and I'll be writing to you certainly within the next 10 days or so with the final details of that day and evening for you all. But 14th of July, school day 8:30 to about 2:50 for the young people, and then the welcome evening 6 till 8 on the same evening, the 14th of July, and also night before, 13th of July, pre-loved uniform sale in the sports hall. Okay, as I said, if there's any questions, just start dropping them in. If not, I'll just carry on talking. One of the things I've got on here is just about communication with the school. And I suppose what you've got to understand is the scale of this, of our school and the size of it, and how much bigger it is from a primary school. And my own son goes to a primary school, and I'm quite used to going to catch his form tutor at the end of the day and so on, and being able to speak to them. With regards to a school our size and all the different teachers that the students come in to contact with, it's not quite as simple as that. So what we do say first of all is, I suppose from my point of view, is that if you have got a question, there's an awful lot of help on the school website, so almost self-help really. It's pretty well organized and constantly updated. It'll be updated for September, so you can go and find on there things like uniform suppliers numbers and so on, and how the school runs, times of day, term times and term dates and that sort of thing is all available on there. Policies are on there, and there's obviously also a lot of good news that goes on there as well. There's a school obviously YouTube channel that's got things on, and also the school Twitter feed as well, where we do try and kind of publicize things that we're doing. So try and do those things first of all. That's really helpful for us all. Your first point of contact then could be the child's form tutor, particularly if it's something that's fairly low level. Your form tutor will be able to do that, and you can email in to the form tutor or ring in and you can leave a message. Next in line of that is the year team, really. Mrs. Varley and Mrs. Hesse, student support manager and head of year, respectively. And they, as I said last time, they're full-time members of staff to support the young people and parents as you go through school. And they're pretty much everything that you can ask, they'll be able to answer. Then just above that is myself, and again, I'm quite happy to answer emails and speak on the phone as well. Just with regards to communication at school, because of the size and scale of the school, we kind of have a rule where we try and get back to parents within 2 days. We're often quicker than that, but just do give us time to get back to you. It's just what's hard to gauge from when you're sending an email in, which is obviously very, very important to you, is it will be in a system that the person the professional will be working through as fast as they possibly can. So just be mindful of that, really. So we often are much quicker than the 2-day limit, but that is in the communication policy. And then also, I suppose it's a plea from me, really, as well, to help and support the staff. Just be mindful of the times of emails, and if you can delay it till it's in working hours, that's particularly useful. A lot of the staff do have emails on the phone, and although they're not required in any way to answer those things, personally, I see emails popping up on my account, and sometimes I do answer them, but there's no things. And just to help that, just from a welfare point of view, for everyone's sake, really, just be mindful of when those emails come in. Just one thing that is important on the back of that is attendance at school. And I mentioned to the young people when I met them that we aim for 100% attendance, really, but realistically the school target is 97%. And I do think as young people go into high school, it's really important that they try and be at school as often as they possibly can. Should your child be ill, then what you do is you call in to the school, and then, like there are in lots of schools now, there's a designated answer phone that's there, that take you just given your name, the child's form group, and then the reason, please, to that, and we can log that on the system. It is a 24-hour answer machine, so you don't all have to wait until when you wake up in the morning in order to do it. If you know your child's going to be ill the night before, then it's okay to leave a message for us there as well. Please try and leave a message on every day that the child is absent, because we do have what's called a first phone call home system, and if you've not rung in, then we will ring you if the child's not attended school, and that's a safeguarding system. It takes approximately half an hour for the registrations to close, and then for us to start sort out the first phone calls home. And we work on vulnerable children and the youngest first, and start working through those things to get a message to you. So if your child is away, please do let us know. It is really important for safeguarding that. Lots of experience where we've we've managed to support parents, and if a child is struggling with attendance issues for whatever reason that is, then that's one of the reasons to contact the year team and just see what we can do to support attendance, to make sure, again, we do have what's called a behaviour and outreach worker, Mrs. Hepworth, who works with families and will visit the home as necessary to try and have conversations where attendance is slipping a little bit. But attendance is incredibly good across the school, really. I mean, we've suffered, like all schools recently, with the COVID situation and some of the mental health issues that have come off that. But our attendance has been very strong. The target of 97% is historically has been a pretty much achievable target. So it is important that everyone's there. And what I said to the young people at the road shows was, I accept that COVID has slightly thrown a spanner in the works here with this, but what I did say to them is, if you've got a little bit of a sniffle, come on in. If you're that bad, really, then we will organise for you to get home, because every day counts as such, and it's so important at secondary school. I'll just pause there for any questions if anyone wants to put any on. And if not, I'll move on. One of the other things I'd just like you to communicate to us where possible is any medical conditions that the child has that we pick up. We pick up a lot of data from the primary schools, and some of that is the medical data as well. But particularly if a child's got a medical condition that, such as diabetes, or needs an EpiPen, or has allergies, or things that are obviously we're absolutely going to need to be aware of, then please do email those through to Mrs. Varley, who will make sure that we've got the details that we need ahead of that. Where we need to, we'll have conversations with people as well to make sure that we've got the details. Most young people that have those conditions do have a healthcare plan. And again, it's really useful for us to have a copy of that. And if you've got a child with those conditions, you're quite used to sending in, it's normally a Tupperware box with a photograph on with the healthcare plan in and the medication that they need. The medical data sheet, as Mrs. Varley's just put on, is going to go out very shortly. So just please have a conversation with us about that. It's one of the things that is so important to make sure that we get that information really clearly for everyone's welfare, really, and not least the young person that's in school, if they've got one of those conditions that we absolutely must be aware of. With regards to the welcome day, if they do need an EpiPen on that day, please can you make sure that they've got one with them, and also any other medication that a child may need going through the day. That's quite an important thing as well. If for any reason you do need to send medicines into school, then there's a form on the website that you fill in, just gives us the idea of how often, dosage, and actually, again, at primary school, it's quite routine that they have to help the children to dose their medication. It tends to be at school, if you send things in to us, then we pop them into our medical cupboard and they stay there. And the student support manager makes sure that we follow the details that are on the form to make sure that the dosage is right and it's signed off, and so on. And when all of the amoxicillin or whatever it is that's finished, then we make sure the bottle comes back to you. Just a kind of note on that, really. If you do need to send anything in, then please just make sure that it's all labelled up so we know what it is, and you fill the form in and send that in to us as well. You can fill the form in online and email it in to us. What tends to happen is, from time to time, students may bring a paracetamol or whatever in a bag, and that's the sort of thing. If they've got a headache or some period pain or something like that, that kind of, as they get older, that's the sort of thing that the children that do. I'm more talking about medication that is necessary for us to actually manage for them. So it's just a slight change to the way things are in primary schools, but most importantly is those sort of top-end medical conditions, the things that we need to know about. Please let us know. And the same thing for food allergies as well, because our kitchens hold a list of food allergy students and make sure that they can point them in the right direction. And again, most students with food allergies, by the time they get to high school, are pretty good at knowing that they can't eat this and they can't eat that and they can't eat this and they can't eat that. And as I said, the school's completely nut-free in the catering area, so the big risk there for nuts and so on is removed by ourselves. What I am going to send home very shortly via school comms is what's called a consents booklet, and the consents booklet is just giving giving us some authorization, some consents for various things, and some of the things that within that booklet, there's a booklet to read, and then there is a link to a Microsoft form that you just click and tell us that you give your consent or you don't give your consent. Once you give us those consents, they last for all the time that they're with us at school. However, every year you get the opportunity to adjust those consents should you want to. So there's things in there, the homeschool agreement, so the agreement between ourselves and the school. It says from our side that we're going to teach your child really, really well. We're going to get to know them. We're going to look after them, and so on and so on. From your side, make sure that you support the school, make sure that you attend parents' evenings, and so on and so on. So that's the homeschool agreement. There's also going in into the consents booklet, which is why there's been a slight delay on it. We're going back to a biometric system for parent pay. So what we will do is we take a copy of a child's thumbprint, and we use that on a thumbprint reader, and it just, your parent pay account is linked to the child's thumbprint. It saves them having to have a card like mine here that get lost and so on, because it's quite hard to lose your thumb. And it's just quite a smooth system. Prior to COVID, we used it all the time. Obviously, with COVID, we had to adjust things slightly. But if you see the section mentioned biometrics, we have to have your consent to take that. Should you not want to give your consent, then the child will just be given a PIN number that they give to the catering staff when they get to the front of the queue. The other one on the consents booklet is a use of images. It just explains that we do take photographs of children, unless of course you don't want us to do that, and we do use them for publicity purposes and so on. They're all safeguarded. We don't put full names on addresses, and we try where we can to anonymize and take pictures in a way that don't highlight any one person. But it is really useful to see the young people showing their school off as such. There's just a few of the other things that are on there, just about extracurricular drop-offs. So I'll come on to how that works in a second, because it's one of the things I've got here, extracurricular activities. But what happens is a lot of the activities are down at the field and finish around 4:30, and the children get themselves home from there, because obviously there's no buses running at that point. So it's just making sure that you're aware of that. If they're actually on an away fixture as well, there is another consent that the PE team need, is the ability for us to, if they're away at Otley Prince Henry's, for example, then the PE teacher often drives through Burley, and is it okay for us to drop them in Burley or Benridden before we get back to school? So that's what that one's about. And then the other one is just about walking down to the rugby club. We have an excellent relationship with the rugby club. And the students walk down with a member of staff down to the rugby club to do rugby training sessions and so on, and then they leave from there. It's all really clear in the booklet. You just have to read the section and go, do I agree with that? Yes or no? Again, it goes on the system. And when we're taking photographs of children, for example, then we check that no one's on there that said no to the use of images. And then the last thing that's on there is the acceptable use policy for the use of our internet, the iPad, and the computer systems in school as well. And it just goes through some of the kind of basics that you do, not allowed to download your own software and so on and so on. And again, fairly straightforward, and most students, work absolutely within those things. The extracurricular offer in school is fantastic. The staff work really, really hard. There's pretty much every sport that you can think of after school, and also creative arts as well. But there's also coding clubs and other groups within school that meet together and collaborate and enjoy each other's company. And we're very successful on the sporting field and the creative field and elsewhere as well. So what I said to the young people is to get involved with those. What will happen in September is there'll be an extracurricular evening where students can sign up to various things. And the thing I said to the young people is, if you've never tried something, just give it a go. Try something new. We do run the odd lunchtime club as well. And then just a little bit about trips and visits. In the second week, all the students in Year 7 go to Nell Bank. There's a smallish cost for that. I'll get the letter to you on the first day in September for a fairly tight turnaround, because it's in the second week. But we effectively walk them down to Nell Bank in a band, so 3 tutor groups or 4 tutor groups, walk down and hopefully have a sunny day down at Nell Bank where they can do some team building things down on Nell Bank there. We're really lucky to have that on outward bound area on our doorstep, and we have a long history of working closely with them, and pretty much every Year 7 since I've ever got there has been down to Nell Bank to have a good day team, and a lot of them speak so favourably about the day when they're down there. Trips and visits, the one that the students are focusing on at the minute is the Challenge and Celebration Week. So for Year 7, it's the last week of term for 4 days. So Year 7 do some local trips, like they're going by locally, I mean within Yorkshire. They're going to Lightwater Valley this year. I think there's Clip and Climb, they walk the wharf. They do some things on site as well, and so on. So a fairly kind of local thing, just no overnight stay as such. So they go out for a day trip and then they come back for every day for 4 days. In Year 8, it gets a little bit more residential as such. So they go down to London for 4 days. They see a West End show. I think they're going to see Matilda this year. London Eye, Tower of London. They've in the past they've done things like Madame Tussauds, Harry Potter World, and so on. So it depends on what's available, but they have an absolutely fantastic time in the country's capital. And then Year 9, they go to the Lake District to a team called Brathay, where they do outward bound exercise. Again, it being July, the sun is often shining, the weather's very good up there. They do things in the lakes, they do walks and climbing and that sort of thing. So again, a really fantastic thing. And then the challenge of Challenge and Celebration Week comes in Year 10, when the students go out for 4 days work experience. Certainly in Key Stage 3 for 7, 8 and 9, the offer is fantastic there. And something that we're incredibly proud of, and the students are absolutely glowing when they come back on the Friday for the last day of term to say goodbye to us, and they've had such a fantastic week. There are other trips and visits as well, non-curricular trips, some curricular trips as well. So one of the popular ones in Key Stage 3 is the Battlefields trip across to Belgium, where we can they can see the trenches and so on of the Somme and so on, and we often take wreaths over to remember the old boys of Ilkley Grammar School who are named upon the boards and in the library there. And then there's obviously other trips such as ski trips and other trips that happen as well. So it's a pretty action-packed thing to get into should you want to, and get involved in those extracurricular activities week in, week out. And then something to look forward to bank in the first couple of weeks, and then at the end of the year, the trips for Year 7. So there's lots going on there. I'm kind of getting to the end of my kind of FAQs here. So if anyone's got any questions at all, then please add them in. Mrs. Murphy, can I ask about the welcome evening on the 14th? Is it it's primarily aimed at parents, because the young people have been there in the day and will have met their tutors. But should you need to bring your child, you can bring them along as well. But it is aimed at parents. I mean, I appreciate childcare and so on, but it is a parents' evening. And actually, just talking about parents' evening, that's probably one thing I haven't explained. There'll be a Meet the Tutor evening in October, when you'll actually have a formal meeting with the tutor at that point, just to see how they've settled in. We do that for all year groups. And then the Year 7 parents' evening is towards the back end of the year. It's also, you do get what we call tracking, which is a report, and you get that 2 or 3 times a year, depending on what you're in, just to see how you can gauge how your child's doing at school. But as I said, it's really important. You can monitor class charts. You can get a really good flavour of how someone's doing from class charts anyway, and then those positives and negatives will be coming through. You're welcome, Mr. Murphy. I mean, they're the sort of questions, those things that you can ask away here. So please just start putting them down, really, because I'm at the end of the FAQ, and as I said at the start of this, I can always guarantee it's an absolutely melting hot evening when I do these things. It's almost like it knows how I'm sat here in a shirt and tie. I've had a lot of emails, and I do thank you from parents to say how useful you found this kind of question and answer session. So I'm quite happy to do them. The next one is on Thursday, and that is aimed at young people, because what I'm going to try and do is recreate the roadshow event for the young people, for anyone that has missed the roadshow because they were away or is at one of the extra district schools that we don't visit because of distance or numbers that are coming to us. So if you do have a child that's on one of those, just make sure they tune in on Thursday at the same time. Okay. The one thing I would say about this group is you've been very, very nice to me on the chat bar. You know, you've maybe I'm just getting better and better at doing these. Maybe that's because you know, it is there's so many questions to ask. And as I said, with regards to communication, please do pick up the phone, email in at transition@ilkgs.co.uk. And the last thing I've been asked to remind you, if you haven't signed up for an iPad, please can you do that as a matter of urgency, please? It's really important that we get those iPads ordered so they're there in September. If you can do that as fast as you possibly can, please. Okay. Well, look, apart from Mr. Murphy there, it looks like everyone else is happy with what I've said there. So I'm going to end the stream there. Send any questions through to us. And if you want to join us on Thursday, then please do. Okay, Mr. Palmer, you're very, very welcome. As long as it's useful to you, it's a good use of my time. So I thank you for your feedback there. Okay, I'm going to end the stream and I'll see you on Thursday. Thank you.